Bayou Alpha Echo. Sticker out top in here.
We at war.
Yo, Rex, lock and load.
Yeah. We at war. We at war.
Go to war.
Yeah.
No cap.
We at war.
Big snuggler.
Yeah.
King cuddler.
We at war. We at war.
Let's go.
Yeah. NFTs, nuts. It's a drug war.
And we are live. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever the case may be. Thank you for joining us again on the Drug Wars Daily Battle Update. I have with me Mr. Arlo Eisenberg. How are you, sir?
Hi, good day. How are you? Happy Drug Wars.
Happy Drug Wars indeed. And hasn't it been an interesting 24 hours? Some more massive battles happening. They just seem to be getting bigger, or maybe it's just a hype machine that keeps driving them up and up and up. But we have some big deals on the show today, don't we?
Yeah, and one of the big questions, we are down to the final two battles, the two divisions of the first round of competition. Then we'll move into the second round where the top 16 matchups, while the final 16 matchups between the remaining 32 teams. But we have yet to see a bounty claim. So either they are all like somewhere in these last two divisions, or every double agent is just beating their competition. So still curious to see if we will ever see a bounty claimed here in the first round.
Yeah, it's been, I don't know. How have you gone on the tables? I know you're in Vegas at the moment. It feels like you've picked nothing but winners when it comes to these bounties. So has that been reflected in your...
It's not me. And no, to answer your question directly, it has not reflected on the poker tables here, but it was a random number generator. So I can't even take claim for picking them here in the first round.
Oh, that's a shame, because it'd be nice to have that sort of lead over onto the tables, right? Like if you...
I wish, believe me.
You won sort of, what have we had? 2, 4, 5 rounds so far, five battles. We've done this 5 times. So yeah, to win 5 out of 6 on the roulette table or on the poker tables, that would be a very handsome result.
We'll see how it goes tonight.
Is it the big one tonight?
I don't know. Yesterday, honestly, was a lot of like entertainment stuff. We went and got dinner and we saw a show. We saw Absinthe out here, which I'd never seen before. So not really much gambling yesterday, but today I think maybe there'll be some gambling.
I see. And how's your...
and the Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys played and won yesterday on Monday Night Football. So a good day all around.
Not bad. How's your dad? Is he enjoying it?
He's having a great time. Yeah. I mean, for as we get older, like, what we appreciate and want the most is just quality time with the people we care about. So yeah, being able to spend this time together with his kids and his son-in-law, yeah, it's all great.
Very good. Yeah, I've never been to Vegas. It's definitely on the bucket list. I think it's kind of on everyone's bucket list, right? It's like the circus of the planet, and everybody kind of feels like at some point you've got to go there and visit the circus act. But one of my favorite movies of all time is Fear and Loathing. The whole Hunter S. Thompson experience, and I'm very nervous that if I ended up in Vegas, that my experience would end up spiraling quickly into a Hunter S. Thompson-esque escapade, and I probably would come out of it 3 or 4 days later and not even remember my Vegas experience. So I'm nervous that I would just blow my cash.
I have to tell you, because I've been holding back a little bit, but so there was also a visit to the dispensary was on the agenda yesterday. Right. And so we did some gummies before the Absinthe show, and people have already asked me how was the show. I have no idea, because I was so confused. I did not know what was going on. I was terrified. I mean, it was a wild experience. So I was happy to go to bed last night because everything was so confusing and terrifying.
And how was your father's gummy bear experience? Gummy Bear's in the audience today as well. I can see him in the chat there. Shout out to Gummy Bear.
So when my sister, not to call her out, but when she was at the dispensary and she got the gummies, they told her, they said, okay, these are gummies, right? You guys are gonna laugh, you're gonna have a good time. They were not gummies for me. They were terrifying gummies. Everything
holy
was so
shit gummies.
insane. Yeah. And so when my dad woke up this morning, he's like, "Those weren't haha gummies." He's like, I was paranoid and like, and scared. So yeah, I don't know what they thought they were selling us, but it's not what we got. At least that wasn't my experience.
Maybe somebody at the dispensary was on the ha gummy bears when they filled the jars up, and they put the wrong ones in the
That's
wrong jar.
common dispensary joke. Yeah. Switch the haha gummies for the paranoid psychopath gummies.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and they were talking about how extreme some of the edibles you guys get over there. Because for us over here in New Zealand, everything's still illegal. We're still living in 1996, right? So, we don't have edibles unless you've got a friend who can be bothered spending the enormous amount of money that it costs to produce them. The podcast was talking about how extreme some of the gummies are getting, some of the edibles are getting over the counter over there. So, interesting.
Totally interesting. And I think they're telling me they're on their way to the room.
Ah, very good.
I have to get up in a second and let them in.
Is that your family on the way in? Yeah.
It sounds like my dad forgot his key when they left this morning.
Right. Okay. So can we get your dad on the show again today? I'm sure the crew that are in the chat would right now would love to see and meet your dad. No pressure.
If he shows up, I'm sure he'd love to come on. Probably won't talk to him about the edibles, but he'll talk about blackjack or the craps table.
Speaking of crazy, I was just on a call with Brooke Howard-Smith literally 3 minutes before we went live here. So I'm going to preface in advance to say that we may not have the most organized and slickly produced show today, but I'll do my best. But Brooke, I've been doing Restream now. This is my 5th attempt at producing on Restream. Yeah. So according to Brooke Howard-Smith, I'm now the ecosystems guy, right? So he calls me and he says, "Oh, we've got to do a podcast. We've got Dan Hooker. We've paid a fortune to have Dan Hooker on the show. Can you come and do the broadcast for us?"
No way. Awesome.
Like, you're fucking kidding me, right?
You've become the resident expert. That's all it takes, man.
He's like, is it hard? Can you do it? I was like, oh, Brooke. Oh, I love him. Here we go. All right.
Be careful of what you're good at.
Yeah. Be cautious what you see.
If you don't want to do it, don't get good at it because people are going to ask you to do it.
All right. Here we go. Without further ado.
Here they are.
Oh, they're here? Okay. So I will ramble while Arlo runs to sort his family out. So let's get into round 4A, which has just finished a couple of hours ago. So if you're tuned in and you're in the Discord, you'll already know the answers to these questions. But if you have no idea what we're about to discuss, have not heard of Drug Wars, have happened to stumble across this during your metaverse Twitter-esque musings, this is a NFT-based competition where we are battling community member against community member in a challenge of wit, creativity, and propaganda. So the recent battle was Division 4A, and it went down something like this. We had Siren in Wonderland take on the Four Eyes of Oz. The Ill Pills took on Four Stuck in the Pink. Piece de Resistance took on the 4 stages of eating ramen. Opposite Forces took on Pinkies and the Brain. And given my crazy morning this morning, I haven't seen any of the scores yet, so I will be finding out for the very first time, and hopefully Arlo has figured out what the scores are and will be able to talk us through. So let's get into the first battle, which is Siren in Wonderland taking on the Four Eyes of Oz. And the winner is... Boom! Oh, look at that!
Here we go. All right, here we go. Look.
Bounty.
Wow.
Bounty alert.
So we
nice.
finally see a double agent get knocked out. Wow, that's sick. Okay.
Amazing.
Cool.
So Siren in Wonderland was a double agent, and Four Eyes of Oz. Congratulations to the team owner of Four Eyes of Oz. You've picked yourself up that seeker right there that you can see in the image. So very cool.
I was just going to say a couple of things to note about this. One is that Four Eyes of Oz is a Tyler team trait or Tyler trait team. You can see all the ruby red slippers. And that's just something to keep in mind because I think we're going to see something else related to that in today's matchups.
Okay. Yeah, so there's it's very common amongst our snugglers, right? That they sort of latch onto a trait that they really relate to or that really speaks to them, and they start collecting all of the NFTs around that trait. So I think most of the community members know, as you can see on the card here, this is a kingpin who's got the ruby red slippers. So I think most people know who that is. And congratulations to that team owner for picking up the first bounty in the competition. Very exciting stuff. And Arlo, what was the score in that battle, mate?
The score on that one was Four Eyes of Oz 86 against Siren of Wonderland, who had 63. The double agent that got knocked out, are the first double agent we've seen knocked out of the tournament.
Wow, so that's a pretty decent victory too, right? That's over 20 votes swinging towards. So, yeah, congratulations. An all-round sweep and a very happy team owner, I'm sure, this morning or this evening or in the middle of the night, depending on as the case may be. Okay, moving on to battle number 2. Yes, we'll get to that in a minute. Battle number 2 was the Ill Pills taking on 4 Stuck in the Pink. And the winner of that battle was 4 Stuck in the Pink. Oh,
yeah. So apparently, a lot more people than I would have expected have no problem with the off-color blue humor. We definitely have some people with, I don't know, some out there ideas about comedy. I feel like this is, ever since the eggplant emoji started, making its way into our Discord server and becoming kind of like a prominent part of the community discourse and lore. Yeah, I guess this is kind of where we've been headed. There's definitely that contingent, 69. I mean, it's definitely a part of
it's part of the lore now, almost, right?
It's part of the lore, like it or not. Yeah. And so 4 Stuck in the Pink took it to the limit for sure.
They did. They definitely did.
It's decisive, Trevor, this one.
Yeah. What was this
97 to 42.
97 to 42. Yeah. Wow, that's a huge victory. Wow. Yeah. So definitely people relating to the lore, the team name, the angle and approach, the history of this particular collection of drug receipts, and potentially associating themselves very closely with some seriously perverted shit. So great to see 4 Stuck in the Pink making its way through to the second round, and I'll look forward to doing another Drug Wars daily recap talking about 4 Stuck in the Pink sometime again soon. Sometimes I have those days.
That's definitely not the raunchiest submission we ever saw.
No, definitely not. That's actually fairly tame compared to some of the ones that came in. And they didn't not make the cut just because they were raunchy. It wasn't like we just, we censored anything. There was zero boundaries. It was just the teams that we picked we felt were better curated, had done a better job. But yeah, definitely some perverted, fucked up snugglers out there. God love you all. Okay, the next battle in round 4A. This one was the one we talked about at length yesterday, which was Piece de Resistance taking on the 4 stages of eating ramen, which is still one of my favorite team names. I'm interested to see who won this one. Let's take it to the result. Boom, Piece de Resistance. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, so power of propaganda here. I mean, there's no question 4 stages of eating ramen was one of the more cleverly named and conceived of teams that we saw submitted. But Piece de Resistance has been such a powerhouse in terms of propaganda and making their presence known. So congratulations, Piece de Resistance moves on. And unlike yesterday, Trevor, where there were a bunch of, or we had several really close matchups, all of today's matchups were pretty decisive. Right. So Piece de Resistance wins with 102 against 48 for 4 stages of eating ramen.
Wow, that's a pretty significant win. Looks like ramen got their asses kicked in the end. Maybe a commissary bowl of ramen is in order
Ramen always makes everything better.
Yeah, ramen always makes everything better. So, so for the team owner out there, maybe some whiskey and ramen to commiserate the loss. Thank you for playing. We enjoyed your team. We enjoyed your team name very much, and hope to see you again next year. Okay. Well, I keep saying next year, but it might not be next year, right? We might do this thing again sooner than that. We haven't really thought about that yet. We're really enjoying it, so we're probably not going to be able to wait another year to do this again. Okay, the final battle in yesterday's was, I think the one of the toughest battles of the division or the round, which was Opposite Forces, a beautifully curated card, and Pinkies in the Brain, which was again another greatly curated card and some very, very cool propaganda. So let's see who took out that as we go to the result. Pinkies in the Brain. Ugh.
Yeah, perhaps one of the bittersweet matchups that we've had so far. Really hard to see one of these teams get knocked out so early in the tournament. But Pinkies in the Brain took it with a final tally of 91 to 59. So not the biggest margin of victory that we saw in this matchup. Still pretty decisive.
Yep.
But yeah, really, really, really bittersweet to announce this one because both of these cards were so stellar. But congratulations, Pinkies in the Brain in the end also came through with some really good last minute propaganda that also might have helped to push them over the top there.
Yeah, I think the cool propaganda makes a big difference. I know it's hard, right? We're all busy. This is just a bit of fun and a bit of a distraction for most of us. And it's tough to kind of justify the time that it takes to put in. But when you see some of the propaganda that people are delivering now, it really is becoming more and more a part of the game. As we go into now what will be the final division of the first round, so Division 4B, we're about to discuss the matchups. I've got a bunch of them lined up. So I tried to be as fair as possible and find propaganda from as many of the teams as I could find before today's show. So if I didn't find your propaganda, it's not because I didn't think it was great. These are just the ones that I found. But I want to show, as we move through each battle, some of the propaganda that's already being showcased and some pretty cool stuff. So what I might do now is jump into a screen share and let's have a look at the last and final division for round one. Here we go. We've got, that's the first battle. Let me just skip to this one. Start at the top. So we've got Mataza featuring some very, very serious NFTs, taking on Quick, Hide It in Your Ass, which is another one of those interesting team names and speaks to, I guess, what is emerging as a significant part of our lore here at Drug Receipts and a significant part of the culture, which is total and utter sexual perversion. It's supposed to be
there is something,
art and subversion, not NFTs and perversion, right?
Right. Yes, but the Quick Hide It in Your Ass sounds obscene, which it kind of is. But it is it's fair game. It's talking about kind of like the old familiar or a trope of I don't know, drug movies where people try to hide the drugs in their ass. Yeah.
So it is referred to in their lore, which is interesting.
Yes.
So and they call out another team. So I always think it's interesting when one team's calling out another. It's almost like they're asking for the matchup. And I haven't looked at the bracket system to see if these two are in line to take on each other. I guess it depends on the outcome of this battle, of course. But Quick, Hide It in Your Ass have said, "Oh my fucking God, the Beverly Hills Corps are coming! Quick, hide it in your butt." So definitely a reference to the popo and stashing the drugs in a convenient or less than convenient, but easily found and difficult to find location. Hopefully there aren't too many snugglers out there that can relate to that sentiment. And if there are, I feel sorry for you.
Trevor, I want to also talk about, so the other card here in the matchup, we've seen a couple of teams already in previous divisions that feature one-of-ones. We had one team that had 2 1-of-1s in the collection, and they actually lost their matchup. Yep. And we had another team that had the Red Devil Tabby, a 1-of-1, and won their matchup. So 1-of-1s are 1-1 so far. They've lost one, they've won one. So this will be the tiebreaker to see how 1-of-1s fare in the drug wars. Yeah. We've talked about the challenges of curating a team with the 1-of-1 because you have really less choices. Because, like, for instance, the Red Devil Cap that we're looking at here, there's only 3 other Red Devils, and the chances of you owning more than one are really slim. And it's not like you can really just go search for what's available in the collection. So you got to come up with creative ways to incorporate a 1-of-1 into your card. Also, they carry so much weight, or they have such gravity, that it's like, it gets a lot of attention. It's hard to coordinate other things with it. But this one's really sharp. The cat mask tabbies are not 1-of-1s, but they are some of the most rare, and they probably have one of the highest floors in the collection.
Yeah.
And then getting a redded out cap with a devil tail is kind of like a poor man's Red Devil cap. So
yes,
pretty clever solution here to the 1-of-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they've done a really good job. It's going to be a tough battle. And this is the last card in the competition that has a 1-of-1 on it. So as you say, this will be the tiebreaker, and it'll be interesting to see if they make it through. One thing about the Mataza team, though, is they have gone quite light on lore, which may or may not be a decisive factor in the battle.
Well, look at the ranks on those cards here. So this is what happened last time when we had the team that had the 2 1-of-1s. Same thing. They didn't really put much lore. It's just that they were relying on the strength of the NFTs. And now here, as you mentioned, Mataza has done the same thing. So we'll see how successful the strategy that will be.
I think this is the highest ranked card we've had, right? This is the tokens on this card is the highest of all of the other cards. We've had two. The previous team had a couple, but these are all, top. Mostly 3 out of 4 are top 50.
Yeah,
and the other ones,
wild.
top 250. So I mean, we're talking some pretty substantial tokens here. This is a very big flex, and it'll be interesting to see if that is enough for people to pick over the 4 unlucky robbers that have to hide it in their ass. So good luck to those teams, and may the best card win. Here we go. Next round, we've got the Odd Squad taking on Make Love, Not War.
So on the left, you can see that it is a DRX set, so 1 of each character there. And then on the right is just is more of a freestyle assortment, 2 Sirens and 2 Tabbies. Love when, the lore on the back is so important, and love something that we've seen from several of the cards, right, is where they actually give a profile for each one of the characters. They get a name, they get a profile, and that's a really fun way of approaching the lore. And it helps you to understand the card and the curation when you see the lore complement it like that. And then on the right with Make Love Not War, this is Drug Wars, but the lore is up to you, the angle that you want to take. And we've seen several that kind of like are almost anti-war collections or cards. And this is one of them. And we love that. I love the spirit of the card, and I love the take on it. Yeah, it's definitely a strong anti-war team. And just wanted to showcase a little bit of the propaganda that's come through from the Make Love Not War team, which is really nice propaganda. So here we go. From the
nicely.
Make love, not war.
Yeah, very nicely done.
That was awesome. Nicely. Oh my God, that was so sweet.
So that might have doxed the team owner in some way, depending on how close you are to the community. If you don't know who Nicely is, then you really should be in our Discord, and you'll figure out pretty quickly maybe where the particular call out for Nicely is. But it's a beautifully done piece of propaganda, that, and I wish that team all the very best against what is another very well curated team with a great sense of lore. Be interested to see the sorts of propaganda the Odd Squad bring to the game. All right.
So just really quickly, but Make Love Not War there is two. I mentioned that it's kind of a random assortment, right? It's two Sirens and two Tabbies, but it's actually two couples,
Yes.
right? Is the way that, and there are, to follow your tease there, Trevor, of the team owner here, but there's more than one married couple, I should say, represented in the Drug Wars. So there you go.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, a really clever angle and take on it, and I really enjoyed the propaganda. All right, let's move on. So we have another, as you pointed out earlier, another ruby red slipper collection, this time single feet instead of double feet. Also a very impressive looking collection with the Ruby's Finest Hour. And the Masqueraders, which was one of the earliest teams kind of declared, right? When we first launched the practice builder, the Masqueraders was one of the first ones I saw, and I thought it was such a great name for a team.
Yeah, it's cool. There's lots of ways to approach the way that you curate the cards, and you can see here that we have two matchups that are kind of similar. They've gone really heavy on the trait correlation. So on the left, it's the blue sock with the ruby slipper. On the right, it's the Jason masks. So this is another Tyler's Trait Alliance team on the left with the ruby slipper, and these actually are even more rare than the matching ruby slippers, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, exactly, they're all under 100. The blue sock with the ruby slipper. So this is a bit of a flex from the Tyler's Trait Alliance, that they have so many of these great Tyler's Trait NFTs, and Tyler's going to be a boss. So if these Tyler's Traits keep making it through the brackets, it'd be interesting if they match up against actually against Tyler.
That would be.
Yeah, really cool. And then on the other side is the Jason mask, which is hint, hint, wink, wink. We have Halloween coming up, so hopefully we will see something from the Halloween traits, the horror traits that are in the Drug Receipts collection.
Yeah, we've got a few, right?
Say what?
Got a few Halloween traits in the collection. And yeah, as you rightly point out, a little bit of alpha for the listeners. Halloween is going to be a big one for us. So keep thinking about which Halloween traits might be important, and we look forward to bringing you more news on that in the very near future.
And I think that the next matchup actually is going to be a horror matchup, also talking about the Halloween theme. But one last note on the Masqueraders is that even though that it is heavily trait based, with the mask and the knives, which is like when I created the collection, those were intended to go together. A lot of these are based on like whole, complete concepts, but then since the traits are all rendered separately, they get redistributed randomly and end up wherever they end up. But the knives and the masks are related traits for sure.
Interesting. And while we're on these two, I did find some propaganda for, actually it was for Ruby's Finest 4 that I wanted to showcase. So here we are, a little bit of propaganda from Ruby's Finest 4, and calling out Tyler Shields and bringing in the David McDonald portrait. So interesting lore and some interesting propaganda there. Cool. Okay, the last and final matchup in the final round of Division 1. The final fight of Round 1, Division 4B, is High Day the 13th taking on the Coven. Again, two horror kind of based teams leaning into the Halloween style traits. So, Arlo, what do you make of these two?
Well, first of all, I'm triggered. I feel like I'm being personally attacked. I am not high. We did gummy bears yesterday, but I think that I'm fully recovered. But so High Day the 13th, we mentioned that this is a horror matchup. And again, these teams are randomly assigned basically how they're distributed in their brackets. So yesterday we had an interesting matchup with basically Wizard of Oz against Alice in Wonderland. And now here we see kind of Friday the 13th with the Jason mask trait against the Coven, which has the pentagram hats, all green pentagram hats. So cool horror matchup here.
Yeah,
after my own heart, honestly.
Some great propaganda. I've actually got propaganda from both these teams. So here's something from the Coven leaning into that pentagram kind of ghoulish Halloween style propaganda, which I thought was really cool. I love the way some of these teams are building their own brands and identities, which is really, really cool. Maybe we'll see some new merch labels or some interesting products produced by some of the teams that are competing in the drug wars. And then we've got High Day the 13th came up with this great piece of propaganda. Let's have a look.
In the city ain't no big deal. Living in the city ain't no big deal. You gotta have a heart made of U.S. steel. If the crack don't get you, then the hookers will.
You a dead meat slime bag. Yo, man, it's cool. It's cool, man. It's cool.
Oh my gosh. Well, we've come a long way from Make Love Not War, but yeah.
Yeah,
Different strokes.
very different ends of the spectrum in those two video clips. And a little bit of alpha or a little pro tip there. You'll see that on that shot there was a watermark. I'm just going to show it again real quick. So you'll see there's a watermark.
In the city ain't no big deal. Living in the city ain't no big deal.
So Fandango movie clips, I think, is a tool you can use to make this kind of style of propaganda really easily. I don't think you need to be, super skilled at video production and things like that. I think they've got the tech built in. So if you go and check out that site, you might be able to make some cool propaganda yourself to support your team. There we have it.
If you haven't downloaded it yet, on the Drug Wars website, you can see Trevor sharing a screen there, but right there in the drop-down menu, you can go right to propaganda assets, and it's an automatic download. Just click that. You'll download a zip file, and it's got logos with transparent backgrounds, different graphics, different graphical elements that you can use in your propaganda.
Yes, and don't forget, your drug inspector is the way to get your own assets for your teams and get the PNG transparent versions of your tokens, and Canva's another easy tool that you can use to create some of this artwork and graphics for your propaganda. So that's pretty cool. One last quick thing I want to do is plug again the past. Oh, did I do that well? I don't think I did. I want to plug the past battle arena. Is that showing? Yes, it is. So this is up for the next 20 odd hours, where you can go back and look at the bracket that we've just gone through and have a look at the results and the votes and the final washout from the previous round. So just keep that in mind, snugglers. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our recap for that round, and we've got one more to go. So tomorrow is the final recap for round one, and then we're going to take a day off, have a little bit of a break while we reshuffle everything and get all of our ducks in a row for the final.
This is going to sound so unprofessional, but I think, Trevor, and maybe I'm wrong. So this is the last matchup, but I think we're actually going to take tomorrow off.
Yes. Right.
And then we will come back the following day for our podcast, for our Thursday podcast, Stop Questioning Everything. And we will do our final recap, which will be from 4B. Although that stuff will get posted, I think, in the meantime.
It should get posted at the end of the battle. Jesse will take care of that.
Like normal. But we won't reveal the bounties yet. So we'll have the final reveal from 4B on the podcast, and then we'll do a proper kickoff of the second round of competition.
Yeah.
The next 16 matchups.
You are correct.
And that will all be on the Stop Questioning Everything. So tomorrow will be a day off from the recap, but then we'll be back, but with a kind of a recap on steroids during the Stop Questioning Everything podcast.
Yeah, we'll pick up some of the highlights, some of the cool propaganda we've seen along the way, and just start talking about the round two, the round of 32. So we're getting moving towards the pointy end of the competition and getting very close to our boss round. So we may or may not even reveal or start to reveal some of the bosses. I mean, we've been dropping them along the way. For those paying attention, you've probably heard a few names get thrown around, but we may or may not reveal some of the other bosses that are in the game. One thing before we finish up, I believe there's a bit of a plug here for your CSI campaign. Arlo, I'll just throw that up.
Yeah, guys, so since there's going to be a break in Drug Wars tomorrow, good time to get your Skeptics and Sinners entries in. This is a flash fiction competition, so it's just a real quick one. We kicked it off at the beginning of this week. It'll wrap up at the end of this week, and we're going to tally up and review the results or the submissions this upcoming weekend. So the prize here, the main prize, is a trip to the Skeptic Conference in Las Vegas, right here, beautiful Las Vegas, where I am presently.
Doing some research, just
doing some research,
hotels,
exactly. Doing some research.
Sure.
But the conference is at the end of October. That's why this thing is going to be such a quick turnaround. So put that fiction together, write a story, write a screenplay, film a video clip. I mean, however you want to tell your story. The only thing is that it's got to incorporate the Drug Receipts characters and at least one of the Drug Receipts skeptical attributes or skeptical traits, whether it's Occam's razor, the Ecree candle, or the Flim Flam glasses.
Very good. So, and you can find more information about that in the Discord. If you are not in our Discord, please jump in there. That's where all of the real conversations and you get to know the Drug Receipts community, which is a great bunch of people. Discord.gg/Drug Receipts. And I'm sure you'll get a warm welcome if you are new to the community, and we'd love to have you. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Eisenberg. Always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
The rest of your time in Vegas. Best of luck on the tables.
Thank you. I need it.
Do really, really well. Hopefully there's a nice bonus coming for us.
Oh, yeah, we'll see.
All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you again for the podcast, which will be the next big Drug Wars catch-up.
And Spaces tonight. We've got Community Spaces hosted by Trevor and Jesse.
Cool. Better figure out what I'm doing there. Okay, we'll see you at Spaces. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
See y'all. Bye.
Attention! Attention! Citizens of the Drug Receipts community, the floodgates have opened. The games have begun. War is imminent.
This is a war! This is a war! A drug war, but it's the type of war that you don't need guns for. You just shoot up to the drugstore and you